Before we begin, thank you very much to Yoko Smirgle, a very interesting name, for becoming a patron over at patreon.com/TJOmega. Every little bit helps, every little bit keeps the content coming and keeps the channel alive, and I appreciate each and every one of you for helping me do it. Now, I did that video about prototypes, just browsing through eBay because I was just curious. I hadn't done it in a while, wanted to see what came up. And what came up was admittedly a really fascinating one that was right up my alley. It was a mold that I really, really loved the look and design of. It was a really interesting color that was obviously a prototype, and it was actually in the ballpark of a completely fine price, at least for a rare prototype, that is. So let's just get into this. Let's just get into this. I've got Fall of Cybertron Kickback here on the toy store counter, and I do absolutely love this figure. I love the sharp lines on the torso design. I love the sharp shoulder pauldrons and the armor coming off the sides of the arms. Love the absolute, like, super sharp aesthetic to it. Like, and then, like, you combine it with, like, the flip up grabber arms instead of, like, his traditional wings, and you just get this, like, super fierce design that I'm like so high on and into. I was always upset they didn't find some other way of using it. Even if it was just one of the deluxe Insecticons, I would have bought this toy in every color scheme it came out with. And even now I'm kind of like looking at the Takara version that's more traditional Insecticon colors and going, mayhaps one day. But for now, I have this version, and this version I think knocks it out of the park. This is like my favorite Insecticon of all time. So no surprise when the prototypes popped up that they actually caught my interest. So we will put you, well, we'll keep you on here. We'll keep you to the side here, just so we have visual example. And we will bring in the prototype that showed at the very end of my video. Yeah, before I even posted that video, I had already bought the thing. So like I was confident that, like, I didn't have to worry about it. Like, just because I knew, like, that thing was going to go off the shelf as soon as I posted that video. And hey, he had two of them, and the other one did. So we're looking here at what I call Brickback in these maroon and green color scheme that I absolutely love. This, for whatever reason, like, he looks like he should be his own character. So what we have here in the prototype world would be a demonstration of what plastics go where, which is just kind of help the designers just visualize which parts need to be molded in which plastics in order to achieve the look that they're going for. So we'll set you aside here, and I will we'll extend out the arms just so the look is complete here. I had to be careful on this one. I'll explain why here in a bit. So as we see, everything that is in the ABS plastic, the hard stuff, is done up in this maroon color. This is the hard plastic. This is the stuff they paint. And yeah, it makes up the majority of any given transformer. The green is called palm plastic. Palm plastic handles friction a lot better, so they use it for engineering points, ball joints, anything that has a lot of movement going on, so the toy handles the wear and tear of time better. And then, of course, we have the yellow up here for the antenna. That's the only PVC on the entire toy. And the translucent plastic is done in straight clear, so you know exactly where it is. And I'll have to pull out his weapon for you to really see the translucence on this figure. So that's how they keep track of what types of plastic go where. They run a prototype that very clearly demonstrates what is where. And I actually have found a lot of prototypes in this color scheme from this period. So it seemed to just be their visual cue. If it was in the maroon, it was ABS. If it was in that seafoam green, then it's going to be palm. That just seemed, it's an easy way of keeping track of it. Now, this is an earlier run prototype. And I know this because the fit and finish on it is not quite right yet. When they concept and create a transformer, they do it in CAD, so everything is down to like programming perfect on all of the measurements and tolerances. But when you turn that to physical, not all of that really shakes out. Sometimes the molds are a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. Sometimes the plastic naturally shrinking when it cools down affects the joint tolerances, and they can account for most of that, but that's what test shots are for. It is to keep track of all of those little flaws and fix them up on subsequent versions. On this one, there are some tolerances that aren't quite there. This arm, for instance, has a tendency to fall off or fall down. This leg does not quite click in like it's supposed to. I can't quite shut it, so it's a little bit loose. These legs have a tendency to pop off their ball socket because it does not quite fit well. But the big thing is, you see the torso that floats away from the rest of the body. I might have to adjust the focus so you can see this a little bit better. So the big thing on this figure is going to be that hinge there. So this panel is the mandible for his beast mode, and the hinge is supposed to fit comfortably in that slot between the two ball joints of his little extension arm / wings. And that does not fit because the hinge is just too thick to make it happen. And because the pin is just as thick as the hinge, that was a design flaw. Otherwise, that'd be easy to sand down and fix, but we can't do that here. So instead, we have a slight malfunction at the junction on this figure. But hey, that's what comes with being a prototype, especially if you're an early run prototype. Now, how do I know it's an earlier prototype? Well, truth be told, I didn't just buy one prototype. So after I shot the video, I went back to that eBay page, and not only was that one still there, he had just posted a second Kickback prototype. And I have my certain weaknesses. I really do. But when you take one of my favorite molds and you do it in mostly green, yeah, I'm going to have a very, very big weakness. Okay, so I was hesitant to splurge on one prototype, and then I ended up splurging on two. Thank you again to my patrons. I should be using this more responsibly. So here, we'll flip up his wings, and we'll show you the differences here. So that was a test shot for the plastic types. This is a molding test shot, where this is how they keep track of what parts share molds. So we have a lot of different vibrant colors that contrast each other. Interestingly enough, 2 tones of blue, 2 tones of green, which seems like it would get confusing when you're trying to keep track of what parts go to what mold, but this is not the only prototype I've seen like this. I would expect wildly different colors. I'd expect them to look like a bag of Skittles blew open. But no, they went with this, and I'm not going to complain because I think this looks kind of beautiful. He's a seafoam green, beautiful thing. So green back here is demonstrating what molds go where. And you can see that the palm plastic all shares the exact same mold. So that keeps track of all of the friction parts. That's all on one mold. They only have to run the palm plastic one time. Everything else, you can see, if they want to do new colors on the chest, the feet have to have the exact same color. If they want this armor on the arms to be a different color, then they have to make sure that it's going to go well with the insect legs and the caps on the knees. So between the two prototypes, this is how the designers keep track of what plastics go where, what parts are paintable, and what colors are interchangeable with each other. And this is how they keep track of exactly what they're going to do with the deco and how the mold's going to operate when it's in production. There's going to be 2 other different types of protos here, potentially 3. Like a first run test shot might be in just one solid color of plastic, or it might just be like flat black. That's a prototype style that exists. That's just to make sure the mold works. The others that could potentially exist would be an unpainted prototype of the original design. So it would have been, normal Kickback here, but without any kind of paint. So it'd just be bare plastic. that I'm always hesitant to try and get those kind of prototypes, because for all I know, someone just took a retail figure and stripped the paint down. And the other prototype that would exist, potentially, would be an all-clear prototype, which is how the designers keep track of what's going on internally on a figure as it moves and changes around. So potentially 2 or 3 other kickback prototypes would exist with increasing rarity. These would have to be on a lot of designers' desks, so this one is a little bit more frequent. I've seen other people with the maroon, and the seller on eBay had 2 of each of these. So there's a few others floating around out there. But for me, absolutely perfect pair of prototypes to pick up. I love seeing the design process going back and forth on these guys, because this is actually a later run proto, which is how I know that Brick back there is a first run. So first off, the hinge is actually correct. And if you put them side by side, you can actually tell that the hinge is noticeably thinner on this version, specifically to make that fix. The joints actually do fit, the leg locks together. I haven't had anything popping off of this one. And this one actually fully transforms. I can show a photo of that because I don't want to take up too much of this video just like on normal review stuff. I just want to kind of demonstrate what the prototypes are and why they are the colors they are and what significance they have. So if anything, I hope this was an educational experience for you and a short little look into what exactly goes into producing a Transformer toy. I think it's an interesting process because there is so much to keep track of outside of just the unique engineering challenges, but also just how much there is to keep track of between figure and figure. Like if you go into these in even deeper detail, you'll find things like that mandible piece has a different tooling mark on it to indicate that it is a revised part. This one has a 1, this one has a 2. Things like that to tell you what order they came in and what parts got fixed. And I could probably find a dozen little things about each one that's just slightly different, but we'll leave it at that. And I hope you gained a little bit of wisdom out of this. And who knows? There might be another prototype or 2 in my future, if I can ever justify doing this again. But for to do it one time, I'm happy with what I got. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.